Today, the world is facing the triple planetary crisis: climate change, pollution and waste, and biodiversity loss. The growing demand for materials required for societal needs is driving the rise of energy use, greenhouse gas emissions, waste generation, and the depletion of natural resources. Since its adoption, the Paris Agreement has driven global climate action by setting goals to limit temperature increase to well below 2 degrees Celsius and pursuing efforts to limit it to 1.5 degrees. However, even if countries' current climate pledges, nationally determined contributions, are fully implemented, we are still far off track to achieve the Paris Agreement temperature goal. The urgency to raise climate ambition and accelerate implementation has never been greater. The global stocktake decision of the Paris Agreement recognized the importance of circular economy approaches to address climate change. Applying circular economy approaches can raise ambition and accelerate the implementation of NDCs. How? By reducing emissions from the material life cycle from extraction, production, and consumption to disposal. Through ensuring that resources and materials are kept at the highest possible value for as long as possible along the value chain. Through integrating the restore and regenerate dimensions and reducing pressure on ecosystems that are key to adapting and building resilience against the impacts of climate change, while generating benefits across the 2030 agenda, including new markets and job creation. However, only 28% of NDCs explicitly mention circular economy as part of their measures to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. That is why 3 UN agencies have come together to support countries to raise their NDC ambition through circular economy. UNEP's One Planet Network, UNDP, and UNFCCC Secretariat have developed an interactive practical toolbox that will support countries to identify, prioritize, implement, and track circular economy interventions for increasing ambition and accelerating implementation of their NDCs. Integrated into a digital platform, the toolbox provides policymakers with a step-by-step methodology, resources, and tools to assess GHG emissions hotspots from material use and identify entry points in their NDCs. Assess and select circular economy interventions and inform the NDC update. Identify policy instruments and indicators for implementation, and track and report progress under the Enhanced Transparency Framework. The toolbox gives countries in the Global North and the Global South the opportunity to find case studies and checklists to help them prioritize interventions, to assess and reduce their carbon and material footprint across value chains, to achieve greater policy coherence, to integrate circular economy interventions in the NDC process, and accelerate the achievement of the Paris Agreement and related SDGs. In Zimbabwe, we're pioneering the integration of circular economy principles into our climate action with the piloting of the Circular Economy and NDC Toolbox. With support from UNDP, UNEP, and the UNFCCC Secretariat, we are assessing, prioritizing, and implementing circular interventions in our revised NDC. Through multi-stakeholder workshops and stakeholder engagement, we are fostering awareness and generating buy-in for a just transition to a circular economy, creating dignified jobs and sustainable solutions. Together, we're shaping a more resilient and prosperous future for all. Ecuador has successfully implemented the toolbox to determine hotspots of emissions in material supply chains. The toolbox has helped Ecuador to identify the IPPU sector as a priority, particularly cement production, which can be targeted for emissions reductions to increase ambition in the NDC. To reduce emissions, a laboratory-scale pilot project has been initiated to develop a concrete aggregate, composite material, that can be used in building construction. The toolbox will also be used to assess the generation of green jobs and the socio-economic impacts associated with the intervention. Vietnam is piloting the NDCC Toolbox in the agricultural sector, chosen for its 19% contribution to national GHG emissions, circularity potential, and social and economic co-benefits that could be derived from implementing circular practices. The use of the toolbox in the rice and coffee subsectors will hopefully contribute to the inclusion of circular economy measures in the 2025 NDC, helping accelerate GHG emissions reductions, contributing to Vietnam's net zero target. South Africa is self-funding the piloting of the UN Circularity NDC Toolbox to test the toolbox in a developing country context. Build on the early circular economy climate mitigation work undertaken by the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research in 2022 to 23. And support the government, through sound evidence, in considering the inclusion of circular economy in South Africa's NDC. Visit the Digital Toolbox platform and learn more.